So now I can move on to the second keynote speaker, Professor Kyungmee Lee from South Korea. Kyungmee Lee, thank you very much for joining us. And please let me introduce her profile first. Kyungmee Lee is an associate professor in qualitative research methodology and sociology of education and technology at the Department of Education, Seoul National University, South Korea. Until recently, she worked with doctoral researchers in the Department of Educational Research at Lancaster University in the UK, where many of her publications on how doctoral students learn and live online stemmed from, including her recent co-authored book, Online Postgraduate Education, Reimagining Openness, Distance, and Interaction. Kyungmee's scholarship emphasizes concept of discourse, knowledge, and power, understood through a Foucauldian lens. Her current research program explores the complex relationships between human researchers and non-human actors, such as advanced intellectual technologies in education and research contexts. So I have heard she will be focusing on the approaches to research buildings, now the wonderful another speech, the Mr. Ika's presentation. So thank you very much, Dr. Kim Lee. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, now I can hear you. Thank you very much.
That's
Thank
great.
you.
Let's try to find the mute. All right, so can you see my screen as well? Yes, everything is all right. So
Yes.
today, thank you. I'm going to talk about 5 ways that education can go really wrong with AI. And as introduced, I'm going to feature a little bit about the threats I have felt as the educational researcher in this society that AI can do so much more than possibly I could do. But I've tried to focus on different aspects that I think that education should really worry about at this moment. Before starting the presentation, I have to just set the floor to introduce myself in these ways so you know where I'm coming from. So I have philosophy of technology and society, which is very social constructivist view. So I don't think that AI is simply a tool, but at the same time, I don't really think that AI has power upon us just one way. So I can pretty much see, and I'm very interested in the internet, very interactive and ongoing dynamic relationship that we've been creating between AI and education, or AI and human being, or AI and society. That's what I'm really, I've been really researching for the past few years. And at the same time, I was like really struck by our previous keynote speaker because I'm coming from very similar background. I'm a critical pedagogue. I'm acting really strongly, and I really do think that purpose of education and the use of technology in education should be all about democratizing educational subject and experiences. But by saying this, I don't really simply want to say that we have to give access to everyone to technology that will solve all the problem. No, not at all. I think the democratization as a term is so much more loaded and very serious term that I think all the symptoms that we're observing right now, which we can call educational problem, is just simple symptom of the social problem. So trying to use technology to solve educational problem, in my view, is not going to solve anything because it is really contextualized in so much bigger picture than education and learning and teaching as our behavior as it is. So that's the second point I want to make about myself. And thirdly, I was thinking, it was so much pressure to prepare this presentation. And I just decided to use the privilege to be as negative as I can be because usually I can't do this to some of my colleagues who are very into AI. But here, I think that this is my opportunity to be as depressing as I want to be. So my presentation will be pretty depressing, but if you meet me somewhere else, I'm a largely more optimistic person, just so you know. And I do use ChatGPT a lot for my research. So it's not like I'm arguing that we shouldn't use technology at all. But anyway, having said that, I want to just do a little bit of critical discourse analysis of the policy document. Since I'm in Korea, I just pick a Korean document, but I guess that this is very similar across the world right now. So this is Korean policy document recently published, and then Korean government has put a lot of money to realize this vision that they have. And then teachers are really getting a lot of training to learn how to use AI for, their classroom to realize this, what they want to do with this policy. So let's have a little bit of look at what they really want. And I'm pretty sure that you're very familiar with a lot of ideas here. So what they really want to do is transform the classroom because they think that classroom has been problematic. And then what they really want to do is that, as you can see in the little circle there, so they want to mediate all the relationship between teachers and students through AI digital textbook. As you can guess that this is under construction right now. They're fiercely developing the AI textbook right now. And the idea is the teacher will get AI TA and students will get AI tutor. And all the learning related to knowledge transmission is going to be done through AI textbook. And there should be something more important between teacher and students. This is what Korean government wants to do. So previously, the classroom was mass learning space where one teacher had to teach diverse students, the students with diverse needs and characteristics and circumstances, which didn't really go well, obviously. And through using AI and the application of data science, what they want to do now is that classroom can be ultra hyper personalized space where student can learn according to their abilities and pace. And teacher doesn't have to give any knowledge per se, but teacher provide data-driven guidance and human connection and career counseling and advice. I mean, honestly speaking, that I think that these are more difficult than giving knowledge to students. But anyway, teachers can do that now. And parents should come into the scene, obviously. So parents can also use the objective information about their child, which they didn't know before, and then educate their children really well. So I was wondering what kind of objective information they really meant. It looks like this. I know it's all Korean, but you can just see it. It's really nicely visualized data, and it's a lot of data about students' behavior and like how students are moving their eyeballs. Like everything can be tracked now, and then its data will be given to teacher and parents per se. And the underlying it all, the vision they want to really create through doing that, through mediating teacher and students learning and teaching activity using AI textbook is like this. They want to have educational paradigm, very humanistic and very futuristic. And let's just unpack that a little bit. There are three elements of it. The first one, they want to develop students into emotional creators, all these people who can create new things based on human created or human centered thinking. And secondly, as I mentioned, ultra hyper personalized learning environment. So personalized learning can be happen not only about the students' characteristics and obvious behavior patterns, but also emotions as well. And last thing is all this policy will move forward to achieve worm intelligence. So I was like, well, how worm and intelligence stuff doesn't really go well. So I had to look into see what they meant by that. And apparently what they meant was that this is the policy eventually will make education available for all. And it's a very high technology, but it's very touchy. So it's very emotional. They're not going to lose the warmth part of the humanistic aspect of education. So for me, it's pretty ambitious and I like it a lot. I mean, I don't mind my daughter to walk into school like this, but it's just way too good to be true. And just giving AI textbook and giving a lot of training to teacher, is it possible to, realize this kind of vision of education? Unfortunately, no, that's what I'm trying to argue. So before starting my presentation, of course, I have to ask ChatGPT first because like ChatGPT may have better answers than me. So I asked ChatGPT to tell me 5 ways education can go wrong with AI. Obviously, elegant answers. All of them are great. I could just say this and then stop the conversation. However, it's like I was pressured literally to say something smarter than ChatGPT. So I was like very competitive. And then to say something deeper and more meaningful, I decided to use this phrase, more than. So what I'm going to do for rest of the presentation is just tell you that the problem is more serious, worse than all these 5 points. So that's why it got really depressing. I mean, it's not. I mean, I just want it to be more depressing than ChatGPT. So let's look into just one by one. So privacy concerns, lack of teacher training. So teacher doesn't know how to use technology, biased against certain race and certain group of students, and over-reliance on technology. We may lose very important skills that human beings should have, and we've been having. And also equity issue is always there, saliently. So these are images also created using ChatGPT. It took a lot of time, honestly, because yeah, this little thingy didn't really listen to me. But anyway, so this is a little image that I wanted to convey. So as you can see, there's no human teacher in this photo. And obviously you can see CCTV. So it's something about surveillance. But the point that I want to convey by creating this image is that this is not really class hour. So if you remember how you were when you're school age, that like break time was like you had a full freedom. Like, of course, that you did behave to a certain degree. However, all this required disciplined behaviors were not really, asked to. So teachers were not there, and you could be freely interact with your peers, and you could be just yourself. But what these Korean government is trying to do, or any government, or this new AI system really monitoring everyone's behavior, it's just like night and morning and class, not only class time, but before, after, between class times, students' behavior will be all monitored and recorded because we have to know their emotions as well. The problem with here is, of course, we can talk a lot of ethical issue related to privacy, but I don't want to go there. But for me, the fundamental problem of this situation is like from Foucauldian term, it's like panopticon, like knowing that your behavior is always monitored as long as you walk into school, and then whether your teacher is there or not, if something happened without your intention, the data recorded recorded scene was there and teacher is going to look into it. That idea is that it's pretty scary. So for me, most important thing about education and pedagogical relationship is basically trust. So trust is the most important thing that the teacher and students is trying to co-create together to make meaningful pedagogical relationship. But I don't know, with this pressure, I don't know how far I can trust teachers. But at the same time, teacher to students, we already had a lot of discussion about the academic dishonesty issues and so on. But I think this whole idea that everything will be monitored and recorded, I think that's something very harmful for the relationship side. On the other side, a flip around, the students will be really exposed to these narratives that if you have a problem, teacher will give you guidance because teacher doesn't know. But I think it will be really difficult. So what if as a student that you sat down and then something really stuck you and then you have the emotional turmoil and you just vaguely know that teacher should know because data should be transmitted to teacher. But if your human teacher didn't do anything, like that's really break the trust. You feel like you're not really being cared. So that's first thing that I want to say about privacy. There's so much more serious than just simple privacy issue where data goes, who's having data, and whether data is collected based on informed consent. And secondly, let's talk the teacher. So we're giving a lot of training to them to learn how to use technology. But whether it's really about you, whether it's, I'm not really sure whether it's really about knowing how to use technology for sake of different things the teacher have to do. As I point out a little bit, what this new policy is asking teachers to do eventually is far more serious than knowledge transmission, in my view. So teachers are asked to be human connection, providing human connection to individual students, whereas knowledge is going to be taken care of by AI tutor. However, a lot of this data visualized coming to teacher and like giving that individual contact to students I think that's going to be very difficult. Although teacher is going to savvy and know how to use all this technology, the entire pressure that teacher and accountability teacher we want to put impose to teacher is far more bigger than how we were. And on the other side of it, the problem is that this teacher needs to do the action based on data-driven, informed, data-driven or informed guidance given by AI tutor. What does that mean is that this professional judgment the teacher as a human being, experienced teacher used to make, so teacher can do to certain action to certain students based on belief that this may be helpful, is now is going to be all supported and it's all going to be demonstrated by the data. So let's imagine the situation that teacher did something and the parents will walk in and ask for the evidence for that behavior. So is there any AI data for teacher to say, like some sort of different punishment that we could do easily in the classroom? I think when it comes to autonomy and teachers' professional judgment being really threatened by this entire environment, I think that's even more problem whether teacher can use technology or not. So one more thing about this bias and discrimination, a lot of discussion about bias going around the race issue. I appreciate that. But for me, this bias is so much more serious issue. Like entire system is so biased based on the valued principle of current society, which I want to call like global capitalism. So what is valued in this society is literally connected to how this AI is going to work. So let's just say that like students can do things more faster, and whether that will give students more meaningful time to do things more creatively, I don't believe so. I think what it would make students or us to do is do more work because it's going to be fast. So a massive work, like we're going to work harder in my view. And another side of this issue that I want to point it out is it's really giving this personalized learning environment to students and saying it's okay, you can learn at your pace. I think that's beautiful at the classroom setting. However, if you think about in society, who's going to get to the higher, we can't really ignore the competitive nature, especially in Korea. Competitive nature to go into big, good university it's crazy pressure on students. So I really don't feel like it is ethical or it's responsible for us to tell students one thing about, you can learn at your pace. It's okay. You don't have to be as good as other people. It's okay. It's like AI will help you. And then eventually those students who got there first is going to get all the benefit of making all this game and then being a winner. So I think that kind of bias is something that we have to be more serious about, just bias about certain groups and gender. I think that's interpersonal relationship. I think beyond that, there's so much more serious social, systematic, bias that played really strongly in this AI system. And last one, I think I was like laughing a lot by hearing Ilkka's presentation because I have marks here coming up. So anyway, so I think for me, this is more than over-reliance on technology issue. So with the skill that we're losing or skill we're nearly gaining, I think it's all kind of important discussion. But for me, entire conversation, like point 1, 2, 3, all build up to tell me that this new future we're going to have both to teacher and students and education researcher like myself is just going to be really alienation. So the Marx was talking about 4 different kinds of alienation that capitalism can make to human worker. Honestly, I really enjoy reading this part when I was in grad school. However, I've never really felt as strong as now about this passage, because what I feel about myself and then I feel like what teacher may feel about themselves is a total sense of alienation. So at least for me, when I read that, I thought like, okay, that's probably for the workers. This is an idea for the workers on the assembly line. And I thought like, okay, at least I'm doing intellectual work. I'm producing something. I'm writing a paper, which human can only do. And I have my output, which has my name on. So at least I felt ownership. So I never really felt the alienation will be my issue or some of the human teachers' issue. But now, I don't know, it can be only me or I don't know, anyone else agree with me. I'm very scary about this entire situation that, research, I'm just writing a paper for AI, and then I also read summary produced by AI, and I write a paper, like half of it maybe. And what I did, and even it's critical thinking I put in, is all like needs to be assisted by AI. I feel like I can, if I keep going on in this way, if a teacher really goes to the way that the policy document is suggested for teacher to be, it's pretty soon that teacher will feel like so much alienated from their own teaching and students from their learning and the production. And also the students feel alienated from each other as well, because within this competitive society. At least in fact, there is one study that when the AI tool, game-based AI tool was integrated in the classroom, a student got so much more competitive because they all want to be number one. They want to be fast. So something about that. So are we going to lose our human essence eventually? I'm not simply saying that AI will do this to us automatically, but the way AI has been or is being used in education, all this policy documents, not only from Korea, but also like I could see a lot from around the world. The way this policy documents are trying to utilize AI system in current society, current classroom, I think the alienation will be soon there. And without solving any problem with the global inequality issue in this global capitalism. And then that brings me to last point that I want to make. So it's not only about inequality in access. I think for that reason, that I described, the entire at global scale, it's so unequal. Our material living conditions are so unequal. And giving just one little textbook to students, no matter where they are living, is not going to have any impact upon this inequality that we are living at global scale. I think I have to say at best that it will remain the same or it will get very worse, because the faster one, good one's going to get there faster. And yeah, I'll stop here because it's too depressing. But anyway, so I really think that we have to be careful about the conceptualization in equality. I think equality shouldn't be understood or dealt with at the level of classroom or at the level of individuals. We have to think about all the multi-layer of inequality by making a claim about what AI digital textbook can do to our students. So last few minutes, I just want to think about the threats that I have been feeling as educational researcher. And I think it's really important because often in this conversation, because I've been participating in these events, listening to speaker talking about it as if it's the problem of other people. I really don't believe that we're some superhero here, that we can just have this abstract level of critical discussions and that it's all the problem for other students and teachers, and we probably get to decide what's the best way for them. I really don't think so, because my fundamental question is like that: as educators or educational researcher, academics, whoever you are, like whichever responsibility you have in your life, my question is, are we really free from all these trends that I just have described? I really don't think so. I think we are also subject to all the struggles that our students may have or our teachers may have. So we're part of it. And things are happening to us. And I'm the qualitative researcher. I really love entire process of coding. That's sarcasm, but anyway, I don't like coding process, but I really think that the coding is an important part of gaining insights from the qualitative data I have collected. I've been using Atlas TI. I think many of you have known this tool, and then you know that they've been using AI. And what they are really promoting very strongly is that you can get the coding process so quick because AI can do that on behalf of you. So AI can do it within minutes instead of weeks that you're spending time on. And all the promise that Atlas TI is making right now is just basically saying that what AI is doing, the research finding AI can help you to have, it's going to be so much more smarter and better than what you could do. And then you don't have to have headaches and like heavy lifting you have been putting. It's all nonsense. Now it should be automatic and fast. And I feel like I don't know, I feel too sad like when I read this kind of thing, because I think the heart of quality research and being a quality researcher myself is putting effort and time because I care about what people are thinking, how they construct their life. Listening to interviewees and like coding their interview and trying to find some meaningful outcome insights which can have impact upon society or education. That has been my job, and I have been having very good sense of responsibility and pride in my job. And now it has been all ruined by saying that it was just heavy lifting. I'm not going to be that good. I know that I don't think that Atlas TI has got there yet because the AI coding results are not very good. So it's not beatable with what I have done. But I think this discourse itself is very problematic because it shaped the researcher's subject pretty poorly and negatively in my view. And as I told you that we're writing a lot of journal articles because we're living in very competitive academia. We have to produce a lot, but have you ever thought about who's going to read it? I think my students are not going to read it anymore. They're going to put my paper into AI search tool and then get the summary of my paper. If you're productive academics, like your students will definitely not read all your papers. And then it's not only happening in our brain, it's like universities are encouraging students to do this kind of research practice. So I do care a lot about graduate student training. That's my job. But I think that graduate students nowadays are trained to be able to use AI, and they're heard that if you don't use AI, you're not going to be fast, efficient enough, good enough. And I don't know what kind of researcher they're going to turn into in the future. But anyway, this is where I live. So all these themes that I have introduced, like let's just capture my presentation. I want to capture my presentation using these 5 terms. So in equity, which is such a serious issue, and then I think that's most serious issue, it's a lot more fundamental than any others. But because the world and the society is so unequal, and it's not going to be easily equalized or democratized, all the other 4 themes come in when we try to do with AI without having serious thought about its global inequity. So as I said, alienated is going to be there, and we're going to lose our autonomy, and teachers not going to be they're not going to have the freedom to exert their professional judgment upon the matter they know the most. And this relationship can't be distrust. It can't be trusting. So trusting relationship between teacher and student and among students is going to be something that we have to work really hard within this AI powered environment. And then as long as the competition is not going to go away. So I'm very looking forward to our panel discussion and any discussion based on this. I hope that this was giving some starting point. Thank you.